trip here. I've learned. I knew I would learn a lot, and I've learned even more. And I know I will be processing this trip for a long time in a really wonderful and positive way. As a scientist and as a plant person, I because of the work that's happening here, I knew we would find people working with trees who love trees and understand that the trees create a sense of place, a sense of purpose, and a connection to other people. And we found that at the highest level I think could ever be expressed. And it's inspirational to see that, especially given that these trees are connecting such horrors to such hope and the desire for peace.
So important to somebody like me that there are these trees that also tell the story. And there's the people individually tell the story, which is very profound of our human history, of the devastation that was here, and then the power of turning that into hope is something that really inspires me. And there's nothing for me better than seeing that story through the trees and being able to look at these trees as individuals, which we often don't do. We tend to look at plants as green stuff or the forest, but these trees are all very individual, and they all have a story to tell too. And so we can think of it as also those kernels of hope that help us be more human, and also provide us with an avenue to bring hope not only for this region, but it's a symbol and pathway for spreading that broadly.
It's just been an incredibly thought-provoking trip in a lot of different ways, and especially I think with my background, not as just an American, but having military experience and thinking about the effects of those times of our lives. It's just an honor to be here, and I talk a lot back at my botanic garden about the resiliency of plants, and to look at the resiliency of the plants here in a very different way, in a way that's not seen anywhere else in the world, because it's such a unique occurrence and such a unique thing that occurred here. A horrible thing, but unique in so many ways that it really highlights this resiliency of people and plants in a way that's very thought-provoking and uplifting, and in a way that we need to use in order to, as we said, to speak about peace and to speak about the use of nuclear weapons and the effects that that's had. So it's just been a very, very thought-provoking period, and I've been very humbled to be able to come and experience it.
The thing that was interesting in reading about what happened after the bombing is the focus on planting trees and how people donated trees. So in addition to the survivor trees, there was this movement to plant trees, and people donated trees, and so it seems as though there's a real string of power associated with the trees here in Hiroshima.
I was actually surprised by the city, about it's bustling with life. It looks like like any other city, and given the history of the atomic bomb, that was really surprising. In particular, how green it is, and the atomic bombing survivor trees. That was something that really surprised me, that there are that many of the trees. I was also very moved by seeing again. Of course, I've read about this, but by experiencing the testimony of the bombing, and by seeing the pictures, and very moved and shocked about this, the horror of all of this. But then inspired, of course, by the regrowth as a city and as nature, and that really made me think a lot about resilience and the resilience of plants and trees, and that's something I'm really fascinated about and want to learn more about, and it's part of my research that I do. And so I think what I can see in the future is that we can really learn from these survivor trees what makes a resilient tree, what makes a resilient plant. Is there something we can learn from this for deepening our understanding of the world, but also to learn so that we might actually utilize it for making more resilient plants for the future, because climate change is happening, will happen very fast, and we need all the knowledge we can get about how to get more resilient plants and food sources and sources of fuel, feed, and fiber.
Well, what struck me about the trees is that they're individuals. I think as a scientist, we often look at organisms in an aggregate or in a statistical fashion. That means you're studying many of them so that you can make statistical inference. And that's the wrong way, I think, or an incomplete way to look at these trees. These trees are individuals. And I think I have to process this more, but I think that as a scientist, we as a plant scientist, we're going to have to take a page out of the book of the medical sciences, who don't just look at people as a population of people, but as individuals who need to thrive. Mm-hmm. And these are trees that are individuals who need to thrive, and we can leverage some science and biology, as we do in the medical studies of humans, in order to do that.
I do believe that one of the greatest forms of hope and healing is through the human and plant relationship. And clearly there has been this relationship that has happened with the people and these plants. It's not separate. And that is so special, and it also can be spread, and we can take this, spread it, and relay that message of hope. And I do believe that a sustainable future for people is also integrated into our relationship with how we work with the natural world, mm-hmm. especially plants, because they are the regenerating part of the natural world.
There's just a real vitality of the people here, and a pride in the care of these trees, and of really embracing this horrific thing that happened. It was perpetrated on and people have really embraced that and are using it in a way that I wasn't aware of. So it's a really interesting thing to me to use a really horrific event actually and to find positivity and good in that.
I think the main question that I came with, and I think I'm still leaving with, is there something that we can learn from these survivor trees in terms of what makes these organisms more likely to live than others? We surely may have other events in the future where there's radiation and other type of disasters, and understanding how these organisms that give us life, trees who have shaped the atmosphere and provided food, shelter, to survive in the future, we need to understand how these organisms survive and last through these tremendously bad events.
Yeah, I was surprised that there were several trees that were basically growing back from their trunk. So tissues that must have experienced enormous heat as well as radiation. And so the ginkgo tree, the mother tree really, made a big impression for me, as well as several other trees that grew back from their trunks. So I think those are really worthwhile to study, and great examples that plants can survive the most profoundly damaging events.
Your encounter with Horiguchi Sensei was long awaited. You are a pillar for Green Legacy Hiroshima campaign. You're also the scientific advisor for the Green Legacy Hiroshima Committee. How did that go? What did you think of him? What were the impressions that you take back?
I felt very comfortable with Horiguchi Sensei. I think he's that kind of person. He makes people feel comfortable. But also there's something, anytime two people get together who love the same thing, it doesn't matter what cultures they're from or what language they speak, they recognize in each other the passion for the same thing. And he loves plants, and I love plants, and there's a real basis for meaningful collaboration, and I feel enriched to have been in his presence.